Peace, everybody. This is the Solar Alchemist, and welcome to Solar Healing, where we talk about disease prevention and health promotion, where we travel the world studying medicinal herbs and learning how to integrate them into our life, as well as holistic lifestyle management. Let's ride. Peace, family. Welcome back to the Solar Healing YouTube channel, where we're talking about disease prevention and health promotion. I am Anu Safi, and make sure you subscribe to this channel before we start the video. All right, so today we're going over the 7 stages of disease, right? And I want to give another perspective on how to understand the degenerative process of diabetes. So health is what you consistently do, and we can speak the same when it comes to illness within the body. So when you are consistently putting good foods, when you're regenerating the body consistently, you're able to provide energy. The same thing, and if you're putting artificial or toxic foods in the body, they start to stagnate. And so we're going to talk about the 7 stages of disease in diabetes and how those start to accumulate. So again, we have to first understand that the laws of life are something that have been ingrained with us in this archetypal memory. It's not something that was placed on us very recently. So that's within the structure of our cells and our tissues and our organs. And since these laws are fundamental, we have to understand that when we start to break natural law, when we start to put things in our body that are inorganic, then it starts to break us eventually. And so that's why we're going to go over the 7 stages and how they accumulate. And you can start to see how it starts to degenerate the body, and even when the body is trying to heal itself. So we're going over stage 1 first. Stage 1 is what we call enervation. Enervation is the reduction of energy within the body because of, and it starts to reduce the body's natural maintenance and the eliminative functions that happen within the body. So you start to get like constipation or diarrhea. The body starts to slow up, right, through the endogenous toxins or the exogenous toxins. So you have the inner and the outer. So when I say endogenous, I mean things are like dead cells, metabolic waste. And when I say exogenous, I mean like toxic pollutants within the air, within the water, chemicals, artificial foods. And what this starts to happen is it starts to slowly starts to stagnate or be able to slow up the eliminative processes over the body. Enervation is also created by stress, which uses a lot of vital energy within the body to apply to the natural maintenance or eliminative function. So when you start to have stress, then again, you start to have constipation within the bowels, within the lymph, within the tissues of the body. This is the diabetes diet that happens when we start to have a lot of processed foods within the body. Your cells, the energy doesn't go properly within the cells, and then you start to get constipation. Stage 2 is toxemia. Toxemia happens from the stagnation of stage 1. So if you do not eliminate these functions and give the body proper energy with the eliminated function, then it starts to, the substances in the body, the waste, the acidity starts to saturate in the blood and the lymph in your cells. And the stage 2 is basically sluggish energy that ends up stagnating. So in the case of diabetes, we have cells that are developing preconditions to not be able to be as sensitive to insulin within the body or leptin due to the toxin state. Stage 3 is irritation. Irritation is when the body becomes irritated by the toxic buildup in the lymph and the tissues in the blood. The cells start to resemble a very toxic state, and the feeding of cells causes the accumulation of excess water in the tissues. Pain signals start to come out from the tissues, and you have 3 causes: lack of oxygen within the cells, the lack of nutrition or the cellular food, and the lack of pressure. So the cells with lack of oxygen and lack of food and pressure starts to retain water, and they send out pain signals in the body because of irritation. So the cells are becoming irritated more and more. The conventional answer is either to ignore the pain and discomfort or to take a pain pill, adding more to the toxic burden as the pain continues in the body. And this stage leads to the body's degeneration, which is chronic inflammation. So now that the body is now suffering and the results are toxemia, the cells have initially become irritated. When they become irritated, the next step is cellular change, when the body starts to be able to correct it. So what it does is it starts to send immune cells to the body, and this provides inflammation. But if that happens chronically, you start to get degenerative disorders. You start to have lack of oxygen within the cells, mucus buildup that starts to happen. So with the skin, it's dermatitis. When you have inflammation within the lungs, that's bronchitis. When you have inflammation within the esophagus, that's tonsillitis, right? Or in the stomach, that's gastritis, right? So those are all inflammatory signs. So that's when the body is trying to heal itself over and over. But if it happens chronically, then you start to have rapid aging disorders. You start to have a lack of healing cells that happen. Cells start to die out. They don't have the energy to be able to rebuild themselves if it keeps happening. So that's when you start to get into stage 4, because you're trying to have pharmaceuticals that stop the inflammation and NSAs. So then at stage 4 happens when you don't remove the chronic inflammation within the body, and then the stages of disease start to impair your heart, your kidneys, your pancreas, liver, and your nervous system. That's when you start to leaving the disease unchecked, the inflammation unchecked. So then you start to get into ulceration, which is stage 5. This happens when you view when the body's degenerative stage keep happening. So ulceration occurs with any body tissue. So then you start to have an unusual connection with the skin, ulcers within the skin. Tissues are being destroyed within the body, especially like the gut lining. Candida does that a lot as well. And the body ulcerates, forming an outlet for a poisonous buildup. So then you start to have the state of acidity or calcification within the organs, right? So the conventional practice is to usually continue drugging someone up. Other forms of treatment at this stage, like surgery. Remember, like diabetes, when you have foot complications, that usually end up into amputation. That is because the body is starting to the blood vessels are starting to contract, a lot of acidity within the body, and then it's not getting a lack of oxygen, so it's having a lack of energy. So then you start to have cells that stagnate and become dead and malignant, and then that's when you start to have amputations of the foot and the hands. All right, stage 6. Stage 6 is induration. Induration means a hardening or a scarring of the tissues. So induration is the result of a long-standing chronic disorder, chronic inflammation that happens, right? So the chronic inflammation causes an impairment of sluggishness or of your circulation. So it's then replaced with scar tissue. So this is the way we lose good, normal functioning cells. By chronic inflammation and the death of your cells, is when you start to get into amputation seriously now. Then they most likely have to amputate the feet or in any other limbs that are happening because they don't have oxygen in the cells to be able to produce energy, right? So we also see low oxygen in the cells coming from induration in the blood vessels as well. They become glycosylated. That means that you have glucose that is being able to stagnate, and then you're having protein, the combination of protein and lipids within the blood. So then it produces rapid aging, right? You start to have a disease within your blood or your bloodline. And the last one is stage 7, which is fungation. This usually happens when the internal conditions of the body have become deteriorated to the extent that your normal functions start to just not happen in general. The cells revert to a more primordial means of surviving, meaning that they start to deposit, they try their best to deposit toxins, and that's usually when cancer comes about. So you have the fungation, meaning that the cells start to have lost its oxygen. They're doing whatever they can, but this is usually when they have what an oncologist tells you that you have cancer. That's your body's final means or last means of trying to heal itself. Many diabetics end up having, or a lot of people who end up having cancer have candida within the body because it's a fungus overgrowth. The body has become too acidified and too toxic to be able to heal itself, and that's usually what is the last stage before death. So going over the 7 stages to health, the root causes of diabetes and its complications must be eliminated to be totally successful within the healing process, right? In the language of the 7 stages, we talked about the most important stages to address in reversing this is before it gets to induration. So we're talking about the toxemia, the inflammation, and then the induration. So when a person supplies the body with good foods, good high quality foods, fruits and veggies, nuts, things that are organic, things that are coming straight from source, you start to increase the vitality of the body, and the body will start to repair and rebuild. But if you start to ignore it, then you start to face the consequences, and you start to break natural law within the body. So the body, you don't give the body the energy and enough time to heal itself. So that's when we start to get into fungation, and then it becomes a lot harder to be able to heal the body when you let it prolong or go on. So the body gives you signals, and all these signals and imbalances are meant to be able to take notice of that so you can heal the body directly instead of letting it prolong by providing NSAIDs and other toxic chemicals or pharmaceutical drugs that end up putting a Band-Aid over over an ailment or imbalance instead of trying to get to the root cause. So by being able to rebuild the body, understanding the stages on how the body starts to digress, especially in diabetes, is how you're able to nip it in the bud before it gets to the next stage. And if you like this information, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. This is Solar Healing. I am Anu Safi. Peace.